Good morning, everyone. I just want to say I feel very privileged to be participating in this event and being on the panel with such knowledgeable and forward-thinking people in the field of substance use care and treatment. When I read about the Boost Collaborative, I was thrilled to learn that there was this new innovative system-wide care, delivery of care for those living with opioid use disorder. As parents and family members, we're on an ever-ending search for help for our loved ones. The current opioid crisis has families in a constant state of fear and anxiety, facing the reality that at any time their loved one may die as a result of their substance use. As a matter of fact, the last time I was in this room was 2 months ago for a celebration of life for the son of one of my longtime parent members. So it was quite an eye-opener to see 150 people celebrating his life. Recently, a PTSD counselor spoke to our group and drew an almost identical parallel between the clients he treats for PTSD and the parents and family members coping with the trauma I've just described. See, the reason I'm here today, is that I noticed that in the planning process for Boost, it didn't seem to include family involvement, and I called Laura to discuss this, and for half an hour she patiently listened to me explain why this important piece was missing, because once I get on a roll, you can't stop me when it comes to families. So at the end of the conversation, she invited me to be part of the launch today. I just want to talk a bit about how families are impacted and what they need in order to remain strong while they're supporting their loved ones. When we support family members to get stronger and more in control of their lives, they can become very strong advocates for change. And more we're seeing that family involvement become the norm. There's some examples of this that I'll expand on in a moment. 17 years ago, I founded Parents Forever, which is a support group for parents and family members who are struggling with loved ones with substance use. I can tell you they're often the first one to know of a loved one's addiction, substance use, and that sets into motion emotional and practical challenges that are completely overwhelming, confusing, and often paralyzing. They're flung headlong into that complex world and they really don't know where to start, and they're searching for every possible resource. It's a monumental task, especially when you're trying to do that and you're in an emotional state of shock from it all. I can attest to this because I was in exactly that same place when I learned of my younger son's addiction to heroin. He's 16 years sober now, and we have a very good relationship, and I credit it to the 23 years of attending a support group and for all that support that I received. I'm just going to go through some slides. I'm not going to read them all, but just to show you, just to illustrate what I've been talking about, the impact, and also what I feel parents need. So how are they affected? I talked about emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So when parents come to Parents Forever, the tank is pretty much empty. And they're usually coming to the group because it's the very last thing on the road that they've been traveling on. They can't simply do anything more, and they realize they need to get support for themselves. So what can we offer them in order to cope? And to stay, more importantly, to stay connected to their loved ones, but not allowing the disease to take over their own lives, to stay strong and ever hopeful. So we believe that families need a new toolbox I've got those slides that I'm looking up here, but I have them here, sorry. And so we believe that they need this recovery toolbox, so they need education, information, support, coping skills and strategies, and then hope, and then they can move on to action. So in terms of education, I've outlined some of the things that we offer in Parents Forever. We have a lending library, we have speakers that come, folks go to educational series. Support, so as I say, for 17 years, every 2 weeks, we have offered parents a place to come and share experience, share wisdom, and more importantly, get that toolkit, start filling up that toolkit. We're lucky because veteran parents come back, they share some successes they've had in their own lives, and that offers some hope. So again, once the parents have their situation is stabilized somewhat and they have that toolkit, they can then start to move on to action. And one of the groups that has been very effective in helping folks to work towards change has been From Grief to Action. Maybe some of you know their website. They started 17 years ago. They produced a video called From Grief to Action, which followed 4 families for 2 years. It was shown on The Passionate Eye on CBC. They got an overwhelming response to it, and it opened up that dialogue around that addiction can happen in any family. Another great asset is they have a coping kit, which is available to families. You can order it from their website, and they have resources and stories on their website. It's a great asset. It's a great first place to go when you first discover your loved one is in trouble. So, and they've also been the, this is a list of the things I just mentioned. And for these 17 years, they've been at every single table, event, conference, and again, creating that awareness and bringing that awareness forward about how families are impacted. And I personally owe them a great debt of gratitude for the work they've done. The Vancouver Coastal Health Family Advisory Committee, for which I chair, and Andy is the person who oversees our committee, has done amazing work since 2000, bringing perspective to policy and initiatives on behalf of families. Their greatest achievement is the family involvement policy, and that allows for families to be consulted and involved in the care and treatment of their loved ones. I've just summarized these here. I'm also a member of the newly formed family group for the BC Substance, new center, sorry, the BC Centre for Substance Use, and one of the projects I'll be embarking on is doing an inventory of what is available for families in the way of support throughout the province, and specifically in terms of substance use. And I say that because there's many support groups. BC Schizophrenia Society has 30 family groups for serious mental illness, and I don't know until I do this inventory how many there are. I know that Parents Forever, by the way, which is supported by Vancouver Coastal Health, thank you very much. We have a small amount of funding that has helped us to remain sustainable over those 17 years, so I'm very grateful for that, and very proud to be a program offered by Vancouver Coastal Health that it's administered through the Boys and Girls Club of South Coast, BC. They're my contract manager. So getting back to that inventory that we'll be doing and for the family group for the BC Centre for Substance Use. And 2 other groups have formed just recently. They were started by 2 mothers who lost their sons to opioid use, and they've done incredible work in terms of advocating for families. And one of them is Mom Stop the Harm, created by Leslie McBain. She's done some PSA announcements that you've seen perhaps on TV, and has met with ministers in Ottawa, and was a loud voice in terms of making Suboxone more widely available. Really amazing. Mums Do was started by Jennifer Whiteside and Donna May, and they have, I believe right now are working towards prescribed drugs, and decriminalizing, I believe, is what they're working on right now. So they both have huge networks if you go on their website. So they've become very powerful, and kudos to them. So in summary, I just feel that if we give families that are connected to their loved ones, and I know that many of you do talk to families and do try to help families, and there are people who are not connected at all, and something inside of me, every time I come across that, I meet someone and I ask, do you have family in your life? And they say no. I think, I wish I'd been there for that family. I wish I'd been able to get them to Parents Forever, or even have a conversation. Sometimes people don't even come to Parents Forever. I just talk to them on the phone. Sort of try not to be a crisis line, but sometimes I wonder if I've become that. I believe that we can help families stay connected and learn how to set those boundaries and those limits, and as I say, still remain in each other's lives. You need to have the tools to manage on that day-to-day basis, because there's always something coming at you when substance use is involved. So as I mentioned at the table, I'm going to finish with this, that there's a bit of a postscript to my son's sobriety, in that just recently on July the 8th, he fell from a one-story building in Toronto window washing, and it was on the news, and smashed both his feet, and has not been weight-bearing for 3 months, and then he'll go into rehab. But all to say that he's on morphine, which was the biggest shock. And so now that just was like a punch in the gut. And so we've had very good conversations about it, but I realized that I had to go back to that toolkit and go, okay, what about this morphine and these painkillers is on my list, and what is on his list, which is one of the strategies we use in the group. What's on his list is to recover and to eventually, find a way to withdraw from the morphine and the painkillers. It's my job to support him and cheerlead him, and remember that I can't do it for him. And those are the tools I've been using for those 23 years. So thank you very much.